They did $15.5 million.
Is that a comma at the end? Why is there 3 zeros?
Your education was in airplanes, and now you're running an 8-figure business.
When we first started, we didn't know anything. We struggled through it all.
So how in the world did you pull this off?
Honestly, what worked for us was I always appreciated the hub and spoke mentality. If you don't offer benefits to your employees, they might leave. My plan is to make landscape millionaires.
Here's how you become a millionaire, like legitimately.
We did. So I know it's possible. You have to be confident behind what you're doing. Say yes to everything, work for everyone. Landscape accounting software on steroids. Your hardworking money is working for someone else and it's not working for you. And if you're not careful, you can watch your money disappear.
All right, guys, I am so excited. Today, our special guest has built a landscaping business here in New Hampshire. They did $15.5 million last year, and they're just warming up. They're going to pass that this year. His name is Dave Fairburn, and when he started his business, you didn't even have any equipment, man. This is quite the story. Over 100 employees. Really look forward to hearing how all this happened, man.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, tell us where we are, man, and what's going on. 700 assets, over 100 employees,
yeah.
8-figure business. How did this all happen?
Yep. It just happened, Paul. My business partner and I started when we were teenagers, kind of mowing the neighbor's lawn. I had started an irrigation service company that I ran through college. After school, we merged our two businesses. It was just me, him, and two others. We were out there doing the mowing, doing the spring cleanups, and at some point, we just put our heads down, we got to work, and we just grew and grew and grew, and we show no signs of slowing.
Yeah, so we just kicked off the season here in New Hampshire. This is second or third day of the year?
This is our second day of full dispatch, so we're working the kinks out. The guys are looking great, though. We had an awesome orientation, spring training program this past week, and we're just excited to hit the ground running, get the grass growing, get everything going. We're looking forward to the 23 season. Our
friend Tom from Kubota set this all up. Thank you, Tom. And we got to eat lobster. How did I do, man? It was pretty messy.
You did pretty good. You got right in there, which is scares most people away. But it was good to see you come up from down south and enjoy your first Maine lobster. Welcome to New England.
Yeah, this is great. Well, what's been the most impressive of your business so far is you have a 95% employee retention rate, which is absolutely unheard of in this industry. So it's almost unbelievable, but I'm seeing it. It's real. So how in the world did you pull this off?
Yeah, we throughout our years, we started to collect some really great people. And as we grew the business, we really realized that they're critical to the success. So our people have built this place, and we want to show them that we appreciate them, that they have a great opportunity for a career in the green industry. They can make great money. They can retire with money and dignity. And this is something that's real. So we show them every day, whether it's employee events, appreciation events, Employee of the Month awards, different benefits and offerings that we try to give to them. A lot of training. They always say that the train to retain mentality is an idea, but it truly works.
Tell us more about that. What if a new employee comes in?
Yep.
What is that training process?
So the moment they start, they put an application through, they get a phone call back from our recruiter, and if everything goes well, we try to find a good spot for them, whether it's in landscape maintenance, design, build, irrigation, turf care, whatever meets up to their skill set. From there, they go through what we call North Point University. So we utilize the Greeniest program of training. The recruiter basically runs them through those training modules to get them acclimated to our processes, understand the safety, the importance of it. From there, they get dispatched out onto a crew. That recruiter will follow up with them again, make sure they're feeling confident, comfortable, safe, that they have the tools that they need, and everything's squared away. So we give a lot of effort from day one. We maintain that culture so those crew leaders and the foremen understand how overwhelming it could be for maybe a new guy with zero experience or even a seasoned vet to come into a large landscape operation that has a lot of processes and a lot of methods. So we try our best to support them right through it.
That's great. Well, at dinner last night, and again, thanks to Tom for Kubota for the New England treat. It was absolutely delicious. But you were mentioning the importance of knowing your numbers, and your education was in airplanes.
Yes.
And now you're running an 8-figure business. So somewhere along the way, you've had to figure this out financially for things to stay profitable. So what does it mean to know your numbers when you're running a business of this size?
All right. So knowing your numbers is critical. And because you have to be confident behind what you're doing. You have to be confident with how you're selling, what you're selling, for what value. When we first started, we didn't know anything besides how to input some stuff into QuickBooks. We didn't know how to read a profit and loss statement or a balance sheet. So we just turned to the internet, really. And I educated myself as much as I could. My business partner is excellent. We kind of ran that road together. And we said, if we're going to have a business, we need to know how a business runs. So at some point, we transitioned from being in the field, being on a crew, to working on the business instead of in it. Everyone always talks about that concept, and it's true because you have to disconnect from the day-to-day, in the weeds workload, so you can learn the next steps and stay ahead of your crews. And that's what we try to do every day. We understood that it was important to know how profit and loss works and what it means to look at a balance sheet, understanding receivables and payables and cash flow. We struggled through it all. It's a learning experience. It really is a grind sometimes. But if you can stick to it and always just know there's something else to learn, something else to see, you keep that good education mentality, you can figure it out. We did. So I know it's possible.
But you were mentioning that you've used technology, equipment. You're always a couple steps ahead of the competition. So how did you get started in that, and how have you utilized the latest and greatest to be as efficient and ultimately as profitable as possible?
Yeah. So over 10 years ago, my business partner and I were running landscape maintenance crews, basically. And we were going out there and just accomplishing the work for the clients. We probably didn't even write a work order down or have any notes. We were just excited to get out there with the opportunity of doing a cleanup or doing a patio or installing an irrigation system. So somewhere along the way, we realized that we needed to have information to pass down to the future crew leaders. And we came across, at the time, Service Autopilot. In our industry, nobody was on a software yet, and hardly anyone was taking credit cards. We latched on to Service Autopilot. We started to dispatch, route different crews. We changed our philosophy to a credit card on file.
Did Jonathan Potashnik influence that?
Absolutely. So his podcast was great at the time. We watched almost every one of his videos. And
So
I remember
have I.
he's a wealth of knowledge.
Yeah.
And he's all about having your schedule organized, showing up and doing the work, having good notes, and starting to record the important information of hours, times, material used. We really appreciated the positive cash flow of having credit cards on file, and that was a big scary step at the time.
Did you add credit cards on file to cash and check, or did you eliminate cash and check and your billing policy was only card on file?
So we were cash and check for a long time, and when you're just starting out, cash flow is always an issue, and you're making some mistakes along the way. You're inefficient in some ways, and it's costing you a lot to learn how to grow your business. We felt that waiting on those receivables to come in just wasn't worth it, and we wanted to speed that process up, make it a little simpler. Service Autopilot gave us that opportunity. We were proud in our local area to be one of the first people utilizing a full CRM software. We were proud to show it off to clients, and they really appreciated how easy it was to work with us all the way back then.
Yeah, and a lot of guys are intimidated to get into a CRM because they think their customers will be upset. You know, Sweet Sue likes to put the check under the mat or, the check in the mail. But actually, it's more convenient for them. Of course, it's excellent for the business owner and cash flow, but the customer actually appreciates the convenience.
We found that, a residential client relationship can become very personal, especially when you're trying to grow your business. And you've done the cleanups at their house, you know their kids' names, you know the dog, and you're in their personal space, right? But at some point, if you want to grow and scale your business, you have to identify your ideal client. And our ideal client became somebody who was willing to have a card on file, who was willing to have automated services. We were just showing up annually to complete a spring cleanup without even calling people anymore.
Wow.
We changed our mentality from waiting for approvals to do work to the moment you sign up, you're getting this full service
Wow.
until you say otherwise.
How many years into your business did you identify that ideal customer?
About 5 years too late. So we did our fair share of say yes to everything, work for everyone, let them kind of run
The
the
customer
show.
was running the show. Yeah.
Yeah. And I suppose it worked. It allowed us to learn the mistakes and to get through them. But you have to identify them as soon as you can and try to make some actionable change.
So nowadays, how do you onboard a new customer? Once you find that ideal customer you just highlighted, what's that process like of setting them up that they're going to get a spring cleanup and you're not waiting for them to come initiate that?
Yep. So we ran that process for about 8 years. And approximately 3 to 4 years ago, we went even further. And I know you don't agree with this concept, but we started to get away from residential maintenance. As much as we enjoyed it, the relationships, the clients had kind of grown into family almost, what it felt like. And it was weird abandoning them towards the commercial market. But there was an opportunity in our area. We were starting to excel at it. And honestly, what worked for us was the commercial clientele allowed us to control our labor better. You know, when Andrew and I were out mowing grass, we could cut 24 lawns a day until it was dark. As you start to hire crews, that number goes down 18, 16, 14 a day. And if you don't watch your pricing, your profitability disappears. And we saw that happen firsthand. So we transitioned out of residential maintenance services, 3 or 4 years ago. But we still deploy that same concept with our turf care clients, which we do service residential, and our irrigation people. So essentially, you on board and we say, hey, here's the deal. We're going to give you a full service lawn care package. You're going to sign up. We're going to come the following season until you tell us don't come anymore. We'll send you price increases and we'll communicate, but we're going to basically count on your business being available for us. And I think that the set it and forget it mentality does work well for clients. There's just this known, dependable contractor who's ready to go work for them. One of the things we kind of paid attention to at some point was every client who's on your list and taking up your scheduled time needs to be profitable. They need to be your ideal client. If you're filling your schedule up with people who aren't, you're just wasting time.
How do you measure that and identify the customer is profitable with the grand scope of everything it costs to actually run the business?
Yeah. So as you start to accelerate your knowledge of numbers, you start to pay attention to, we look at the gross profitability of what we're doing more so than the revenue. So the revenue is a big flashy number. $15.5 million is really, certainly impressive, and we're very proud to be here. But it doesn't matter if you're only working at a 30% gross profit margin and the rest of the company is struggling. And if the company's struggling, then the guys are struggling, your equipment's struggling, nothing's working well. And especially rolls up to the owner, stress load, desire, willingness, burnout to continue like that. So job costing became critical. 3 years ago, we switched over to the Aspire program, which is in a landscape accounting software on steroids. Aspire really cares about your profitability as a business and shows you very aggregate numbers of how to get there and perform it. So on a daily basis, we just talk about gross profit margin as a piece of revenue. And that's our goal all the time, is how to increase the gross margin to feed the company the money it needs to survive and thrive.
Yeah, that's really good. Now, how do you measure each division? You mentioned you guys do irrigation, weed control. Of course, you do your design, build, landscaping, all of that. How do you monitor? Because you're doing everything. Mm-hmm. I'm sure some divisions are more profitable than others. Why do you offer them all? How do you keep up on all of that?
Yeah, I always appreciated the hub and spoke mentality of a business to even out the seasonality of what we do. We're in the snow belt up in New England, so we have to transition from landscape services over to snow and back and forth, and that's complicated. Mid-season, we might face some drought, we might face some wet weather, and all of a sudden your landscape maintenance might be slowing down, but your irrigation's picking up and vice versa. So we've always liked having the hub and spoke to smooth everything out. What we do is we divisionalize and we classify it on our accounting books so that we understand if the turf care division is profitably running as opposed to maybe the landscape division. If one of them's starting to struggle, we are seeing that on its individual income stream.
Okay.
Very critical, because you could run a business where half of it's losing you money, the other half's making great money, and you need to know that so you can make adjustments.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yep.
I want you to share a little bit about your employee company truck incentives. This is I've never heard this before, and it's really cool. So,
all right, so we're going to talk about the Bleed Blue trucks. We call them Bleed Blue trucks. Over here, we identify our culture as bleeding blue. We wear blue uniforms. We're very heavy on that idea of what it means as an employee to bleed blue. Last fall, Andrew and I decided that we've grown, we've scaled, we're so fortunate to be at this level, and there's so many great people that helped us get here, right? And we want to bring them with us, right? We want success to be shared. We want to win as a team. So we decided that we could run like a normal landscape company where the managers kind of start earning more money, field managers, sales staff, right, typically. And the crew leader, crew member could get left behind. And I decided that wasn't going to happen here. So in 2023, we rolled out the Bleed Blue truck. It's basically a program where if you are an employee of North Point Outdoors for 10 years, when you hit your 10-year mark, if you don't have a company fleet vehicle, we give you one to use. Just because you haven't developed into a management role or sales role, maybe you aren't willing or you didn't desire that path for your career, doesn't mean you don't share in our success. And some of the success of that is having a nice new vehicle that's reliable, something to be proud of, feel part of the upper management team, even though you're only, you're not running clients, you're not running schedules, you're running crew. So we just didn't want to leave that guy behind. We wanted them to show that they're critical to the success. You don't have a business unless your front line is in place. It's simple as that. So we're very fortunate and very happy to be in a position to financially offer that benefit. Coolest thing that happened is once we did it, all I hear walking around now is, I only have 5 years left. I only have 7 years left. And it's something for these people to look forward to, something for your team to latch on and support each other in, essentially longevity, loyalty, all the good things.
Yeah, and I saw 2 of them out there this morning. They have custom license plate. So Bleed Blue 1, Bleed Blue 2, and these are nice trucks. And to clarify, this is for personal use as well. They get to drive this on the weekends and home from work, and it's their personal vehicle.
Yeah, exactly. So just the same way our sales staff gets to use their trucks to and from work or on the weekend for some running around with family, they get to use theirs. We also give them a $250 fuel card. We register it, inspect it, we maintain it. They have nothing to worry about, no carried expenses. All they get to deal with is a brand new truck to come to work in.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, we're really proud of that.
And additionally, and I want to hammer home this point because I'm here and can feel the atmosphere and the positivity and just the it's a rare for a landscaping company to have this company culture, but something else that you do to create this that you were sharing at dinner last night is you actually bring a financial education to your employees, how they can manage money better, which is ultimately the more peace of mind and stabilization they have in their household income and budget, the better employees they're going to be. So tell us a little bit about what you do to help your team manage their finances better.
Yeah. So in the fall, in addition to Bleed Blue trucks, we created a North Point Cares fund of pooled money that our staff could request maybe a loan or a short-term cash advance where it's funded by Andrew and I and their peers. There's a panel of people that operate that fund, and they approve whether or not the money gets sent out. That panel came to me and said, hey, it's been great to help these people and kind of give a man a fish, but how do you teach a man to fish? So I went on a research tear trying to crack the code of finance, education, and stability, because it's kind of missing in the landscape industry and realistically the blue-collar world, I believe. We went on a mission. We found the Dave Ramsey Smart Dollar program in the fall and rolled it out. in January, this past January, as a company-wide benefit to everybody. And that program is a self-driven financial education and budgeting tool that has literally transformed lives around here. It's given people some hope, some goals, some direction. I support it with a monthly or bi-monthly meeting. I'll put 20 or 30 people in a room, and we'll roll through the program together. We'll talk about the wins and the struggles and the stresses. Our intention behind the Smart Dollar program was just that. These guys make a great earning paycheck. There's a lot of hours available. And if you're not careful, you can watch your money disappear, right? And maybe get yourself into debt where all your hardworking money is working for someone else and it's not working for you. So I've found my new mission in our business is to support our staff in that goal of financial well-being, a bright future, a solid retirement. I walk into those meetings and say, hey, my plan is to make landscape millionaires. And you can do it because they're starting early enough. And we're going to show you the way, we're going to teach you the way, and we're going to lead the way. All they need to do is get started. So that's really transformed my life, some of my focus and direction, which I think will carry me through the next 5-10 years. And I know for a fact that it's really already transformed some lives of employees.
That's fantastic.
Yes.
Do you have any stories of how it's moved the needle for somebody?
Yeah, of course. I don't want to get too personal, but basically help some people pay off some credit card debts, kind of get some hope back that they're not going to struggle for the rest of their life or live paycheck to paycheck forever. And even more importantly, I've loved the ability to show a landscaper or there's crew leaders in that meeting, foremen, division managers in there, salesmen. It doesn't matter if you make 20 grand a year or 200,000. You can be financially educated. The schools don't do it. What I've found is oftentimes the families don't do it. Interestingly enough, I guess here, your work and your coworkers do it for you, and they help you find the answers to your questions about finance.
And ultimately, it's going to benefit your business because if you sit down with a 21-year-old kid and explain to him, if you invest this portion of your money with compound interest, you will be a millionaire by the time you're 55, 60 years old. If the market, is 10, 12%, and then they're not going to want to go leave a job because the other company down the road gave them a better health benefit because they see, wow, I can be a millionaire if I live on less than I make and I invest this money and I show up and do a good job, and then they're going to be a great employee. And when they show up to work, they're not all stressed out because they have a little bit of margin in their life.
Exactly. So I got a great story for that. The Ramsey program has an awesome tool where you put in your birth date, your income level, how much money you can save. And the most fun thing I've seen so far is I sat down with one of our fleet mechanics, young kid, made a good earning last year, and I said, hey, how much money can you save every month? So he put together his budget, and he had some money left over. And you type it in, and you tell him how much you currently have saved, and the number $5.6 million showed up on the screen. And he said to me, is that a comma at the end? Why is there 3 zeros? Never in his life has he ever equated millions to himself.
Wow.
And now he has. So as just the simple fact that he works here and someone's supporting him and caring about his future, he's now saving that $300 a month with purpose. He's coming to work with that energy. He's bleeding it off onto his coworkers. They're coming into the meetings, into the program, setting up 401ks. It's unbelievable what it's done. I know that what this program will do is help people. It'll help the company, and inadvertently, it'll help me. Never want to say that's the goal, but when the whole package works,
it's a win-win-win.
It's a win-win-win for everybody.
And no one's talking about this, like you said, in school. For you to sit down a 21-year-old person and explain to them, here's how you become a millionaire, like legitimately, that's a game changer.
I've always struggled with this industry when I used to hear. When we were first starting up and we were collecting some great young talent, and their parents would say to them, hey, when are you going to get a real job? Like a real job involves a cubicle and a desk. You can have a real job in the green industry, and you can make a solid learning, and you can retire a millionaire. If someone just shows you the path, there's nothing worse than being a boss of a big company that has great benefits with a staff member or a team member who's struggling, and they feel like their only out is to go join the union or go find the next job, maybe at Amazon or something, for an extra 50 cents.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, they like to landscape and they're passionate about it. So let's show them how they can make that a viable long-term plan without having to look somewhere else.
Yeah, I was just down in Alabama. I was interviewing a guy, and he had his main foreman just quit. And I was like, why did he quit? And he's like, well, he could get a health benefit over there. And literally just quit just for that one little health benefit. And it's like, if there's no vision, that guys are going to jump ship pretty quickly.
You have to, it's a business, a landscape company. It's a self-fulfilling thing. It's a machine. So if you don't offer benefits to your employees, they might leave, right? But if you do, they're probably going to stay. If you give them above industry pay rates, if you make them feel appreciated, wanted, and you set up a path of growth for them, they're certainly going to stay. In doing so, they're going to help support the next tier of incoming guys, and all of a sudden your business is scaling, and it's under their control. And they look back, a couple of years, they go, I've come so far from when I started. We all love the stories of the team member who starts as a crew member, and before you know it, they're a territory manager, division manager, they're in sales. We have plenty of those stories here because we started from nothing. So that's exciting.
What's it been like with the equipment and, running reliable equipment? I know you have 5 mechanics on site. How has all that been?
Equipment and the fleet size to us is critical to supporting the people. And good, safe, reliable equipment and vehicles for them to go do their job is just the way it needs to be. If you're deploying your people into some subpar stuff that's frustrating to work on, the production's going to be down, your profitability is going to be down. It all ties together. So years ago, what we did is I remember doing it. I won my first landscape contract, and I didn't own a lawnmower. I didn't have a lawnmower, trailer, or weed whacker. So I went to a local fair, and I met my salesman at our local dealership, MB Tractor and Equipment, and we went to dinner with him last night. So he's been in my life now for 15 years. I bought my first 2 lawnmowers from him. As we grew and scaled, he just became my guy. Lawnmowers, skid steers, excavators, mini skids, loaders. We've used it all, seen it all, and love it all. It's turned out to be a very dependable, reliable piece of equipment. Our guys love to run it, and if they like to operate it, we just assume when they're out in the client properties that the client's getting the best out of the operator, they're getting the safest experience, and it works great for everybody.
That's fantastic. What would you say to someone who's just starting out in this industry and they're hearing $15.5 million and all these mowers and all this equipment and over 100 employees and they want to start on this trajectory? What's the path?
First and foremost, it's possible. I'm very proud that I can tell you I've done it. I remember the first push lawnmower on the neighbor's lawn, and now we're seeing a dispatch of all these guys. It's doable. Know your numbers, take care of your people, stay true to your word and yourself. Don't be afraid to be in control of your services, what you're good at, and just constantly pay attention to the little tiny losses. Pay attention to the non-billable labor time. Make sure you're billing out all of your materials with good markups. Ask the questions of your accountants and understand what overhead is, understand how to make a good business budget. Budgeting is one thing that they don't teach you in school, right? So how are you supposed to do it for your business? You have to find a way to learn it. There's no way you'll ever be successful, scale a business if you don't set out a plan to do so. And a budget's basically the only way to do that. Plan your revenue, plan your expenses, your overheads, plan a net profit. That's one of the big things that's kind of missing. If you set out your plan and you monitor it and you see if it's not going your way, you can make adjustments during the season. There's nothing worse than getting to the end of the year, working your tail off, sweating in the heat, freezing in the cold, for the accountant to tell you, hey, you lost money. There's nothing more deflating than that. you should know if you're making or losing every month along the way. It's the only way you can make the adjustments you need, pay attention to things you haven't or weren't, and make the changes in the season that you're in.
And you were sharing at dinner last night, Dave, when you have just one crew, you can kind of get away with some things. But when you got 100 people, guys standing around in the morning for 5 minutes, multiplied across 50, 75 people, and again in the afternoon and evening, that adds up to, we did a little napkin math last night, about $3,000 a day that can be wasted by just one guy's loading up or putting fuel in, and the other two guys are just standing there. So what have you done to solve that issue or help solve that issue?
Yeah, so we saw that as we didn't know it when we were starting. You don't pay attention to it. All you're focused on is getting the work done, and you're hoping that the staff shows up to do it. We call that non-billable time. Mm-hmm. It's critical money. It's almost where we see a lot of the net profit in the landscape industry disappear. And granted, it's disappearing into the pockets of your team, but they're not billable on a site yet. So what we did years ago is we changed our fueling time to night only. We said, no more gas station stops in the morning. The intention is to get on the property and stay there and be billable, fuel up at the end of the day. That saves a little bit of time. At this facility, when we were designing it, we came up with this concept of it generated from safety, and it kind of just morphed into an ability to manage the non-billable time. So our crew leaders and foremen punch in on the clock, and they're behind the gates getting the truck pulled up. Now, it should be pre-day prep the night before, ready to go. Their crew members come in 15 minutes behind them, and they're waiting outside the gate. It gives a crew accountability because the crew leader isn't wasting any time because he's got two guys who aren't on the clock yet waiting for him to come pick him up. So we like to think that crew leader then cares about his guys. It's going to be an uncomfortable conversation if he's been spending 15 minutes moseying around while they're not getting paid. So he comes up to the gate, they hop in the truck, they punch in on the clock, and they're on the road. The landscape industry is interesting. A lot of other contractors are billable 100% of the time because the staff drives direct to a job site. Landscaping, we're paying them travel time to get there and get to the next place and throughout the route. So we don't look at it like we're reducing their income. We're just getting them onto a profitable place faster. And in doing so, we retain our profitability, which allows us to have better benefits, give away trucks in 10 years, do profit sharing programs, have great company events, all because we just pay attention to the missing time. So definitely look at it. It's if you're not profitable, it's probably the easiest thing that you can make an adjustment for. As uncomfortable as it sounds to not pay your guys the second they show up to the site. So this morning you came, and we always plan on a 7 o'clock dispatch, and we'll see most of our trucks out the door by 7:07, and we're hyper focused on that. You and I walked around the corner, and half the trucks were gone before 7 in our second day. So these guys understand the benefits. They understand that mentality that we have, and they're executing it flawlessly. So now we reward them for that effort because it really does add up.
Where do you find these guys, Dave, and gals?
As we were growing and scaling, I think we were probably running some of the cleanest equipment around. We were growing quickly. We kind of had this culture behind us. We just find people locally. We do some ads on Facebook. We do a lot of QR codes on they have QR codes on their jackets and snowplows in some trucks where you can just go take a picture and get right to our application page. Having a full-time recruiter that works on staff gives those applicants focus. Make sure he follows up, calls them, meets them, what's convenient for them, not necessarily always here. And that's been critical. So last year, I was walking through one day and I met this new employee coming through training. And I shook his hand. I said, "Hey, how you doing?" He says to me, "I'm really happy to be here. I've been on the waiting list since the spring."
Wow.
So we had a 30-plus person waiting list from the spring where people are basically hired, approved. We just don't have a spot currently. and we're calling them up on the roster when we do. And a lot of them are taking it. So build the culture, build the brand, support your people, and that just bleeds out into, into the, I guess, the local area, the market.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, you're definitely held in high regards from Tom from Kubota. I was down in sunny Florida golfing, and I was on the turn, and Tom called me. He's like, "Hey, you want to go to New Hampshire?" And so here we are. And thanks again, Tom, for giving me this crazy opportunity for you to share with so many other lawn care and landscaping business owners out there listening to this story, inspired that if you can do it, they can do it too.
Absolutely. Cool.
Well, thank you for everything Kubota does to support the Green Industry Podcast and you guys listening right now. I just appreciate your partnership, Tom, and connecting this. And so big shout outs to Kubota. They made all this interview happen today. So thank you guys.
Yeah, we really appreciate you, Tom. Thanks a lot for the support.
No problem.
I'll leave you guys with this. Scaling your business and growing is almost second nature, right? A landscaper is inherently hardworking, driven, goal-oriented. Stick to it. Learn as much as you can. If you want to reach out, we're on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok. So feel free to shoot us a message if you want to connect and say hello. I'm always willing to, maybe answer a quick question here and there. We're always open to visits if you want to come up and check the place out. I'm always willing to give a tour, help motivate the next group of growth. And a rising tide in this industry helps everybody. So we're just happy to support it and be here. Super blessed and thankful that we've got this far. And thanks a lot, Paul, for having me on. I really appreciate being able to share some of these success stories and some stuff that we're doing that I really think can have positive impacts on other people.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So go follow them on social media at North Point Outdoors, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok. And thank you for my first experience in the New England area. It's been great.
It was good to have you.
Lobster, McLaren. We
saw a little bit of everything.
Yeah, so it's a little traffic. So maybe even a little Fenway Park. So
yep. Beautiful.
Cool. Well, thank you.
Appreciate you, Paul.
Thanks again, Tom, and Kubota as well.
You bet. You're welcome.